Welcome to another day in history, time travelers. During this month in 1610, Italian astronomer Galileo made an earth-shaking discovery that 4 moons revolved around Jupiter, and that the telescope reveals many more stars than are visible with the naked eye. Millard Fillmore, the 13th president of the United States, was born in 1800. 44 years later, in 1844, Saint Bernardine, the French girl whose vision of the Virgin Mary led to the founding of the Shrine of Lourdes, was born in that very town. In 1891, Zora Neale Hurston, an American folklorist and writer associated with Harlem Renaissance, who celebrated Black culture of the Royal South, was born. In 1937, when in cricket, Australia wins the third test match against England in Melbourne by 365 runs. Now, I have no idea what any of that means. I've never played cricket. I've never seen cricket being played, so I wouldn't even know where to begin to understand what that means. I would guess that is something similar to baseball, but I don't know. The following year, in 1938, is when Japanese attacks on British police officer increased the tension in the international settlement of Shanghai. 1955 brought us American contralto Marian Anderson, who first performed the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. 2 years later, in 1957, American broadcast journalist Kate Cormack, who was the first solo female anchor of a major network of CBS evening news program, was born. The next year, in 1958, President Dwight D. Eisenhower requested the U.S. Congress to appropriate an additional $1,370 billion in a fiscal 1958 to speed up and expand missile and air defenses. In 1968 is when the unscrewed U.S. space probe Survivor 7 was launched, and a few days later made a soft landing on the moon. Moving right along to 1972, when bombs were placed in a safety deposit box in 8 major U.S. banks that were defused by police after several newspapers received letters giving their locations. Vietnamese forces took control of Pham Pha, Cambodia, ousting the Khmer Rouge and its leader, Pol Pot, in 1979. And if I'm not pronouncing those correctly, I'm truly sorry. I'm trying my best. A year after the turn of the 21st century, in 2001, John Kufner was inaugurated as president of Guyana, in that country's first peaceful transition from one elected government to another. 2 years later, in 2003, by presidential decree, Christmas, this day on the Coptic Orthodox calendar, was celebrated for the first time as a national holiday in Egypt, and an almost entirely Muslim country. 2010 brought us two events. The first is when the UN officially reports that fighting between members of the Nuer and Dinka ethnic groups in southern Sudan in the past few days has left at least 140 people dead. A report by a coalition of aid groups says that some 2,500 people were killed in violation in southern Sudan in 2009. And the second event is that China's central bank raises the short-term interest rate slightly. The move is regarding as significant. Moving to 2015 and Paris. This is when two gunmen connected to Al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula, a Yemen-based military group, stormed the Paris offices of Charlie Hebdo and killed 12 people in retribution for the satirical magazine's portrayals of the Prophet Muhammad. The attackers were later killed by police. And this will bring us back to 2024 and our current history. Until next time.